every year, I took great pride in throwing the most talked about Halloween party in our little town of Amber Hollow. My Victorian-era home, with its naturally creaky floorboards and sprawling shadows, provided the perfect backdrop. This particular Halloween, the air was thick with anticipation, and a mist had settled over the town, adding to the eerie ambiance. I had gone all out with the preparations. The main hall was draped in faux cobwebs, glowing jack-o'-lanterns adorned every corner, and a playlist of haunting melodies filled the air. Guests started pouring in, dressed in their spooky best. Witches, werewolves, vampires, and more danced and reveled in the celebrations. Midnight approached, and as per tradition, I gathered everyone in the main hall for a ghost story session. Just as the clock struck 12, there was a loud, persistent knock on the front door. Surprised, since everyone I had invited was already inside, I opened the door to find a young woman dressed in a tattered white gown, her face obscured by a flowing veil. I assumed she was a friend of a friend and beckoned her in. She entered without a word, moving gracefully to the center of the room. The chatter ceased. Her presence was mesmerizing, yet undeniably chilling. Removing her veil, she revealed pale, almost translucent skin and eyes that seemed hollow, devoid of life. Her voice, when she spoke, was a haunting whisper. "May I share a tale?" Entranced, we all nodded. She spoke of a young woman, madly in love, betrayed by her beloved. Heartbroken, she took her life in a grand manor on a stormy Halloween night. The manner she mentioned eerily resembled my own. As her story reached its climax, a cold wind blew through the house, extinguishing the candles. Darkness consumed the room, and when the lights flickered back, the mysterious woman was gone. The atmosphere was thick with unease. The guests whispered among themselves, wondering who she was and where she had vanished. Mrs. Whitman, the town's historian and a close family friend, looked particularly ashen. She beckoned me aside, her voice trembling. "This house," she began, "was the grand manor of the Delanceys in the late 1800s. Their youngest daughter, Alara, took her life after her lover betrayed her. It was said she vowed to return, searching for her lost love. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. My Halloween party hadn't just been visited by a random storyteller, but by the ghost of Alara Delancey herself. The party disbanded quickly after, the chilling events casting a shadow on the festivities. As the last guest left, I could swear I heard a soft lament, a cry of sorrow echoing through the hollow halls. To this day, every Halloween, I feel Alara's presence in the house. The air turns colder, and sometimes, when the wind howls just right, you can hear a broken-hearted whisper, searching for a love long lost. It was the Halloween of 2012, and I was eager to show off my new costume at Dan's annual Halloween party. Dan always hosted these parties at his family's old farmhouse, which, with its barn, vast fields, and surrounding woods, made for the perfect atmospheric setting. After weeks of searching, I had found the perfect mask. It was eerily lifelike, resembling a man's face twisted in anguish. The detailing was impeccable, from the realistic skin texture to the veins on the forehead. Whenever I wore it, my own mother could barely recognize me. I arrived at the party in high spirits. Friends marveled at the eeriness of my mask, and I relished the attention. The party continued in full swing, with drinks flowing and music blasting. Around midnight, I decided to take a breather and headed outside. The vast fields stretched before me, bathed in the silvery glow of the moon. I strolled, enjoying the crisp autumn air, my mask safely tucked under my arm. Suddenly, a rustling noise caught my attention. I strained my ears, and the rustling morphed into what sounded like hushed whispers. Intrigued, I followed the sound and found myself at the edge of the woods. The whispering grew louder, turning into distressed murmurs. Feeling a mix of curiosity and apprehension, I ventured deeper. That's when I stumbled upon a scene that made my blood run cold. There, in a small clearing, stood a group of people in a circle. They all wore masks identical to mine. One of them, seemingly the leader, chanted in an unfamiliar tongue, while the others responded in chorus. At the center of their circle was a stone altar, atop which lay a mask, exactly like the one I held, surrounded by lit candles. Panicking, I stepped on a dry twig, the crack piercing the night's silence. The chanting ceased immediately. Every masked head turned in my direction, their gaze fixated on the mask I carried. I didn't wait around. Dropping the mask, I sprinted back to the farmhouse, not daring to look back. Breathless and terrified, I burst into the party, my tales spilling out in frantic bursts. Dan, ever the skeptic, dismissed it as a prank or some role players deep in their game. Still, he gathered a few friends, and we ventured back to the clearing. But it was empty. The circle, the altar, the candles, everything was gone. The only thing that remained was my mask, now inexplicably perched atop the altar. The party ended abruptly after that. No one mentioned the incident, dismissing it as a product of too much alcohol and an overactive imagination. I tried to put the incident behind me. However, since that night, every Halloween I receive an anonymous package. Inside, there's always a photo of that same clearing in the woods. But with each passing year, the circle of masked figures grows, and they always seem to be looking directly at the camera, waiting. I've since gotten rid of the mask, but the unease remains. What had I witnessed that night? Who were those people? And why did they wear that particular mask? The answers elude me, but one thing's for certain. I never ventured into those woods again after dark.